I moved into my new house, actually my first house, on a Sunday in September. It was small, one story, beige stucco, clay tile roof, a yard wrapped in cinder block walls like the city was trying to keep the desert out, or keep something else in. From the backyard, if I stood on my toes near the lemon tree, I could see the cell tower over the wall, gray and still. I think it was supposed to be unobtrusive. It wasn't. That first night, after the boxes were half unpacked and the air finally cooled, I went outside, barefoot. The concrete still held the day's warmth. The sky was clear in that washed-out Vegas way, where stars look hesitant, like they're not sure they're welcome. I wasn't planning a spell. I didn't think of what I was doing as magic. I just wanted the house to feel settled, safe, like it knew I was there. So I rested my hands against the side of the house, closed my eyes, and did what I'd been teaching myself for months now. Slow breathing, attention turned inward, listening for that low hum beneath everything. And then I asked the house to accept me. It wasn't the house that answered, it was the tower. It started as a pressure change, like the air thickened, not heavier, sharper. I opened my eyes and spun around, leaning against the house now. Then I saw them. The flat plates near the top of the tower were glowing. Not white, not red, violet, then neon blue. Thin sparks jumped between the plates, branching like veins, like cracks in glass filled with light. Threads spilled outward, impossible lines that bent instead of falling, stretching into the dark and down toward the neighborhood, toward me. I couldn't hear electricity. I could hear something layered beneath it, like a crowd murmuring on the other side of the wall. Not words, more like intention, awareness, recognition. My skin prickled, every hair on my arms lifted, and suddenly I understood, felt, that the tower wasn't just transmitting signals, it was conducting them. And I was standing in the circuit. The threads didn't touch my body. They passed through something deeper, something I hadn't known how to name. When they connected, my breath caught, not in fear, but in clarity, like snapping into focus. I saw shapes then, old ones, geometric impressions beneath the soil, patterns laid down long before streets or zoning permits. The tower wasn't placed randomly. It couldn't have been. Someone, or something, had been waiting for a structure tall enough, clean enough, loud enough to finish the work. The sparks intensified. Violet folded into blue, blue into something almost ultraviolet, and the tower let out a sound I felt behind my eyes, a steady, resonant tone. I broke the connection instinctively, hands off the wall, eyes shut, grounded myself the way I'd practiced. The light vanished. The night went quiet again. Coyotes still didn't cry. The tower went dark, save for its red blink, slow and obedient. I stood there for a long time, heart steady, breath even. I wasn't afraid. But I understood something then. I hadn't blessed my home. I'd introduced myself, and the tower knew my name. In the days after that, I tried to be normal about it. I went to work. I folded towels. I ate cereal out of a mug because I couldn't find my bowls. I told myself the tower incident was a one-time event, a weird convergence of nerves and heat and moving stress and whatever invisible currents live in Las Vegas air. Then the house started responding to me the way a pet responds when it learns its name. Small things, at first. On Monday morning, I asked, out loud, jokingly, for the kitchen light to turn on because my hands were full of boxes. The light clicked on. I froze in the doorway with a lampshade balanced on one shoulder. After a long, careful pause, I said, "Thank you." The light stayed on like it was proud of itself. It would have been spooky if it hadn't also been kind of embarrassing, like the universe had overheard me being dramatic and decided to reward it. Tuesday, I lost my keys. I looked everywhere, purse, counter, junk drawer. The fridge, because I was officially spiraling. Finally, I stood in the living room and said, very calmly and very seriously, "Okay, if I'm going to live here, we can't start like this." A gentle tapping came from the hallway. Tap, tap, tap. I walked toward it slowly, like I expected a raccoon to be standing there holding my keyring. The tapping was the coat closet door. I opened it. My keys were hanging from the inside knob, swaying slightly, as if someone had just set them there. I laughed once, just a short, startled sound, then shut the closet like it might get ideas. After that, the little things became frequent. My phone would buzz with notifications that didn't exist, but only when I was anxious. A dropped utensil would roll back toward my foot instead of away. A curtain would flutter in a room with no airflow, as if the house was practicing breathing. Once, I was watering the lemon tree and muttered, "You'd better not die on me. I'm not emotionally prepared." The next morning, it had 3 new blossoms. I stared at it for a full minute, then told it I appreciated the effort, but it didn't have to show off. That afternoon, I walked past the backyard wall and felt that hum again, faint, like a faraway generator. I looked up and saw the tower's plates catch the sunlight in a way that made them look almost watchful. I started limiting my time outside, not because I was afraid, because I could feel myself noticing too much. It's hard to explain what growing power feels like when it's gentle. There's no lightning bolt, no dramatic soundtrack. It was more like my senses were being tuned, slowly, day by day. Colors had a little more depth. Sounds carried a little further. My dreams took on sharper edges, like someone had increased the contrast. And sometimes, if I was distracted, the world would answer my thoughts the way it answered my words. Which is not as convenient as you'd think. One night I was binge-watching a show and the main character did something idiotic. One of those choices that makes you yell at the screen because you feel personally betrayed. Without thinking, I snapped, "Oh my God, just shut up." The TV went silent, not muted, not paused, silent like it had been politely dismissed. I stared at it. The subtitles continued for half a second, then stopped too, as if they were offended. I picked up the remote and tried to fix it. Nothing worked until I whispered, "Sorry," and then, like a reluctant friend, the sound came back. Another time, I had a bad day. Not catastrophic, just sharp around the edges. My boss was passive-aggressive. My car's AC blew hot air in October like it was making a statement. When I got home, I dropped my grocery bag and a carton of eggs cracked open on the tile. I stared at the mess and felt something rise in me, heat behind my sternum. An old, bright irritation. I breathed in, I breathed out. The eggshells slid neatly back together. The egg whites flowed upward, reforming like a rewind. The yolks smoothed into place. The carton resealed itself with a soft, papery click. When it was done, the eggs were whole, unbroken, perfectly innocent. I didn't move for a long time. And I sat on the floor and laughed until I cried. Because what else do you do when the universe decides you can't even have a breakdown correctly? That was when I started taking myself seriously. I had always suspected something about me wasn't ordinary, not in a special way, in a quiet way, like a frequency I carried that didn't match the rest of the room. In my early 20s, I'd found books, forums, weird little corners of the internet where people spoke about energy and intention and the bones of the land. I'd read late into the night, half skeptical, half hungry. And then I'd practiced. Candle flames responding to my breath, water tasting sweeter when I whispered over it, luck bending in small, subtle ways. But this was different. This was amplification. I didn't want to connect to the tower again. I also couldn't stop thinking about it, so I did what I always do when I'm afraid of something. I approached it like a chore. I made tea. I turned off my phone. I sat cross-legged on the warm concrete of my backyard with the house at my back for strength and the tower just visible above the lemon tree. I closed my eyes. I didn't reach outward. I listened. The hum came, faint at first. Then it sharpened, like a string tightening. Behind my eyelids color bloomed, violet, neon blue, and something deeper that my brain didn't have a name for. I felt threads. Not physical, not even visual exactly. More like awareness stretched into lines, paths between points. The way you can feel, in a crowded room, who is looking at you without turning your head. The threads pulsed from the tower in slow, steady waves. They touched houses, cars, street signs. They wrapped around routers and phones and smart TVs and any device that might listen. Then they grazed me, just the edge of it, and my chest lit up like someone had struck a match inside me. I opened my eyes, gasping. Above the wall, the tower's plates sparked. Just once. Violet to blue, a short arc like a wink. I stood up so fast my tea spilled. The tower's red light blinked as usual, slow and obedient. But the air felt different, like it remembered me. October arrived the way it does in Las Vegas. Still hot in the day, weirdly cool at night. Everyone pretending summer isn't clinging on out of spite. The neighborhood got festive, fake cobwebs and sagging bushes, plastic skeletons lounging in lawn chairs, a 10-foot inflatable ghost 2 houses down that looked like it was having an existential crisis. I tried to keep my magic contained to the house, which is a funny thing to say, because magic doesn't respect property lines, neither does electricity, neither does the desert. Still, I managed. Mostly, I learned that intention mattered more than emotion, that my powers were like a dog on a leash. If I held the leash loosely, it wandered into trouble. When I kept my focus calm, the strange things stayed small. I could warm a cup of coffee without a microwave. I could coax a plant back from the edge of death. I could find parking spots like the universe owed me money. Once, I tried to sweep the kitchen and the broom started sweeping on its own. Very efficiently, honestly. I watched it for a full minute with my arms crossed. Okay, I said. I appreciate the initiative, but now I feel judged. The broom stopped. It leaned itself against the wall with the quiet dignity of someone who'd been criticized at work. I started laughing. Not because it was hilarious, though it kind of was, but because it felt like the house and I were learning each other's boundaries, like we were roommates. Then, one evening, close to Halloween, I noticed something new. The tower's hum wasn't just a hum anymore. It had rhythm. It pulsed at certain times, dusk, midnight, and just before dawn, with a steadiness that felt intentional, like it was running a test, like it was listening for a response, and each time it pulsed, my magic stirred in my body as if answering. Not a craving, a resonance. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself to ignore it. But the closer we got to October 31st, the more the neighborhood felt charged. Kids practicing screams, dogs barking at nothing, the air carrying that sharp scent of dust and candy and dry leaves shipped in from somewhere more seasonal. The night before Halloween, I dreamed the tower was a tall candle. The plates were petals, and the sparks were threads of a weaving so wide it covered the entire city. In the dream, I stood under it with my arms open, and the threads sank into my skin like warm needles. When I woke, my hands tingled. When I looked out my bedroom window, the tower's red light blinked. Slow, obedient, patient. Halloween day was quiet in the way a room gets quiet right before someone breaks glass. I went through my routine, work, grocery store. I bought a bag of candy even though I didn't know if kids came down my street. I told myself I was being neighborly, not paranoid. The sun set. The neighborhood lit up with porch lights and string lights and plastic jack-o'-lanterns. I sat in my backyard after dinner because I'd grown used to the night air and because I'd started to feel like the backyard was the only place I could think clearly. The wall felt like a boundary, a line I could control. I made myself breathe slowly, in through the nose, out through the mouth. I told myself I was not going to connect to the tower. I was not going to do anything weird. I was going to sit there like a normal person and listen to distant laughter and maybe hand out candy and go to bed. And for a while, that worked. Then a child screamed somewhere down the street, joyfully, the way kids do when they're hopped up on sugar and adrenaline. The sound sliced through the air, and the tower responded. The hum hit like a wave, not loud, felt. My skin tightened, the hair on my arms lifted. The air sharpened around the edges of everything, like the world was becoming too crisp. Above the wall, the flat plates on the tower flared violet, then neon blue. Sparks erupted, more than I'd ever seen, threading between the plates in branching arcs that looked alive. The threads spilled outward and downward, and this time I could see them even with my eyes open. Thin lines of light, violet and electric blue, stretching into the neighborhood like a web being cast. I stood up so fast my chair tipped over. The threads were everywhere, and they were hungry. Not in a monster way, in a vacuum way, like something had opened and needed to be filled. My chest lit up, the magic in me surged to meet it, and suddenly it felt like I was holding a live wire in my hands, like my body was the conductor the tower had been waiting for. The porch light flickered, then every light I could see flickered. Not just mine. The neighbor's string lights stuttered. A TV screen flashed blue in a window across the street. A car alarm chirped once, like a bird startled awake. I put my hands out instinctively, palms down, as if I could press the world back into place. "Okay," I said out loud, calm because I didn't know how not to be. "That's enough." The threads snapped toward me. They didn't touch my skin. They slid inside the space around me, into that deeper layer where my power lived, and they latched on like static. My breath caught. My vision flashed with geometric shapes beneath the ground. Lines and angles and circles, patterns that stretched far beyond my yard, beyond the street, beyond anything I could see. The tower wasn't just a tower, it was a needle, and the city was fabric. And I, apparently, was the thread. I tried grounding the way I'd practiced, feet on concrete, awareness down into my soles, breath slow, but the magic kept rising. It poured up through me like water through a cracked pipe. The lemon tree shivered. Its leaves turned toward the tower as if it had heard music. The air above the patio shimmered. Dust lifted from the ground in a thin spiral, dancing like it was being pulled by invisible fingers. I swallowed hard and tried a different tactic: containment. I pictured a boundary around my yard, like a glass dome, like a bubble. The shimmer thickened. For one hopeful second, it worked. Then the bubble strained, and I felt it. Pressure from the outside, like the tower was pushing back. The threads brightened. Violet and neon blue braided together until the air looked stitched with light. I heard that tone again, behind my eyes, resonant and steady. Not sound, signal. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't take it out. It buzzed again and again, like it was trying to match the pulse. A dog barked in panic. Somewhere, a woman shouted a child's name. The tower's red light blinked, slow, obedient, like it was counting down. Panic didn't hit me like a scream. It hit me like a quiet realization. If I didn't get control, this wouldn't stay in my yard. I wasn't just in danger. I was the danger. I backed toward the house, steps careful, breath measured because I couldn't afford to hyperventilate. The threads followed, tugging at the space around my ribs. The porch light popped, glass snapping, filament dying. The motion-activated light over the back door turned on anyway, bright and white, as if electricity itself was confused. "Stop," I said. The air vibrated. The cinder block wall hummed under my fingertips. The threads reached higher toward the sky. And then, like the night had been waiting for it, every Halloween decoration in sight began to move. Not dramatically, just enough. Plastic skeletons turned their heads. A hanging ghost spun slowly though the air was still. The inflatable across the street wobbled like it was breathing. I stared at it, half horrified, half wanting to laugh because this was so absurd. And the second I almost laughed, the magic jumped. A burst of violet blue light snapped from the tower to the air above my yard, and for a moment a shape formed in the threads. Something like a spiral, something like an eye. I stumbled back. My hand hit the doorknob. The doorknob was hot. Not burned hot, alive hot, like it was holding current. I pulled my hand away and stared at my palm. A faint glow traced the lines of my skin, violet and neon blue, like the threads had memorized me. Then the neighborhood went briefly, impossibly silent. No dogs, no distant traffic, no laughter, just the hum. And in that silence, I heard footsteps crunching on the gravel outside the gate. Not running, not sneaking, steady, unhurried. Someone stopped at the side gate. My gate latch clicked, soft, precise. I hadn't locked it. I should have locked it. The gate opened. A woman stepped into my yard as if she belonged there. She was maybe in her 30s, maybe older, just, well, ageless. She wore dark jeans and a plain jacket, hair pulled back, face calm in a way that made my panic feel childish. She looked up at the tower. The threads flickered around her and paused, as if deciding what to do with her. Then she looked at me. Her eyes were clear, not glowing, not dramatic, just very, very awake. "You're lit up like a beacon," she said gently, like she was commenting on the weather. "And you're doing it with your feet on bare concrete. Brave." "I didn't mean to," I managed. My voice came out steady, which surprised me. "It started, and I know," she said. "Halloween opens doors, and this tower makes doors bigger." A fresh pulse surged from the plates, violet to neon blue, threads whipping outward. The woman didn't flinch. She walked toward me, slow, palms open at her sides. "Listen," she said, "you can't fight it like it's outside you. It's in you now. You have to draw it in. Give it somewhere to go." "I'm trying," I said, and the words sounded ridiculous against the sky full of stitched light. She stopped an arm's length away, careful not to crowd me. "Look at me," she said. I did. "Breathe. Slow. In. Hold. Out." I matched her pace. My lungs stopped shaking. The threads pulsed again, tugging. The air shimmered. "Good," she murmured. "Now, feel the edges of you, not your skin, your space. You know that space. You've been using it without knowing." I swallowed, closed my eyes for a second and felt it. The subtle boundary I'd tried to dome over the yard, the place where my intention pushed against the world. "Yes," I whispered. "Pull the boundary inward," she said. "Not like you're shrinking, like you're gathering a cloak around your shoulders." The image landed cleanly in my mind. A cloak, fabric, thread. I exhaled and imagined drawing the boundary in, gathering it close. The shimmer tightened. The threads quivered. For a heartbeat, the surge eased, like the system had found resistance. The woman's voice stayed calm, low. "That tower is broadcasting," she said, "but it's also listening. You're the first thing that answered loud enough for it to hear, so it's amplifying you back." I opened my eyes. The threads were still there, but less wild, less whip, more weave. "How do I stop it?" I asked. "You don't stop the ocean," she said. "You stop letting it pick you up." Another pulse rolled through, violet and neon blue, but this time it felt less like a strike and more like a tide. She lifted a hand and pointed, not at the tower, but at my chest. "Your center. You've been letting power rise like steam. You need a hearth. You need to give it a place to belong." I stared, breathing, trying to understand. She stepped closer, only by half a step. "Put your hand here," she said, touching her own sternum lightly. "Not hard, just contact. And say, in your mind, not out loud, mine." I did it. My palm over my sternum. The glow in my skin brightened, violet braided with neon blue, then softened, as if the colors were being filtered. "Mine." The threads tugged. I said it again. "Mine." The tone behind my eyes changed, still resonant but less sharp, less intrusive. The woman nodded like she'd been waiting for that exact shift. "Good," she said. "Now draw it in on the inhale, like you're sipping it through a straw. Slow. If you rush, it'll flood you. It sounded ridiculous. It worked anyway. On the inhale, I imagined pulling the threads toward my center, not yanking, not grabbing, inviting. On the exhale, I imagined sealing them there, like closing a jar. The threads in the air thinned slightly. The shimmer over the patio eased. A car alarm down the street cut off mid-wail. My phone stopped buzzing. I kept breathing. In, draw, out, seal. The tower pulsed again, but it felt less triumphant, more curious. The woman watched my face closely, as if reading tiny changes. "You're doing it," she said. "Keep going." I nodded, jaw clenched, not from strain but from concentration. The power inside me still surged, but now it had direction, a path, a place to rest. The threads continued to retract, not disappearing but shortening, gathering. The violet and neon blue sparks on the tower's plates reduced from frantic branching to clean, brief arcs, like a machine stepping down from overload. The air cooled. The lemon tree stopped shivering. Somewhere far away, a coyote finally yipped, tentative, like it was testing whether the night was safe again. I didn't realize I was crying until a tear dropped off my chin and hit the concrete. The woman's voice softened. "Almost," she said. "One more thing." I glanced at her. "Name your boundary, not the yard, not the wall, you. Tell the power what it can and can't do." I swallowed. In my mind, with the calmest certainty I could find, I formed the words. "You can live in me. You cannot run from me." On the next pulse, the threads trembled, then settled, as if accepting terms. The tower's plates glowed violet once, faint like an afterimage, then went dark. Only the red aviation light remained, blink, slow, obedient. My knees went weak, and I sat down hard on the patio. The woman crouched beside me, not touching unless invited. I stared at my hands. The glow had faded to normal skin, but I could still feel the pattern, like a memory under the surface. "Who are you?" I asked, voice small in the quiet that returned. She smiled, but it wasn't smug. It was tired and kind. "Someone who made noise once," she said. "Someone who lived too close to something that liked to listen." She looked up at the tower again, eyes narrowing slightly. "You picked a strange first house," she added. I let out a short, breathless laugh that surprised me. "Yeah," I said. "I'm starting to realize that." She stood and brushed dust from her jeans. "You'll be okay," she said. "But you need practice that isn't accidental. And you need to stop thinking of your power as a guest. Guests leave doors open." I nodded slowly. The neighborhood sounds drifted back in. Distant voices, a laugh, a car passing. Normal life reassembling itself. "What happens now?" I asked. The woman turned toward the gate, then paused. "Now," she said, "you learn to hold what you carry, and you learn when to answer." She glanced at the candy bowl by my back door. "And you hand out candy," she added, deadpan, "because you're going to want the neighbors to like you." I laughed again, this time fully. The woman's mouth curved just slightly. "Midnight's a hinge," she said. "It's closing. You did well." She stepped through the gate, then stopped once more and looked back. "And hey," she said, like it was an afterthought, "next time you bless a house, start with salt and a welcome mat, not a signal tower." Then she was gone, into the quiet street beyond my wall. I sat there for a long time, breathing, feeling the power inside me settle, not gone, not dormant, just held, like water in a bowl instead of water in a flood. Above the wall, the tower blinked red, slow, obedient. But now, when it blinked, it didn't feel like a countdown. It felt like a question. And for the first time since I moved in, I knew I didn't have to answer it. Not unless I wanted to.
If you liked this story, please support my channel. Like, share, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when a new story materializes.